Hi everyone, we are the Plant Operations Smartphone Tracker subteam, or POST for short. I'm Will, and this is Tiffany, Shirley, and Larry. So I'd like to start off with some context about what our team does in case anyone's unfamiliar. A long time ago, plant operators would inscribe plant data into physical logbooks and then send this data by hand to our Cloud for usage. This was an unsustainable and tedious process, so POST was formed to streamline this using the benefits of technology. We have an Android app powered by ODK Collect, which allows plant operators to fill out forms with their data, and this data then gets aggregated in a Firebase database. That data then gets displayed on the POST website for anyone to view. An issue that we have had for the past few semesters is that there will sometimes be large gaps between plant operators submitting data, or there won't be any data at all. Some plants haven't submitted data since 2017 or 2018, although there are a few plants where data was submitted as recently as this semester, Matthias and Moricelli. We have tried to solve this in past semesters with an email bot and even a Facebook Messenger bot that would remind plant operators to submit data, but those efforts did not work that well. This past summer, one of our old subteam members, John Carlo, has been working with ACR to try to get submitting data to POST added to plant operators' job descriptions. And in conjunction with that, we are attempting to break this negative feedback loop of no data by revamping the website to make it more appealing to use, amongst other things, which Shirley will go more in depth about.
So we have several action items for this semester and also going into next semester. We're currently working on a redesign of our website to make it more usable and comprehensive, which would encourage plant operators to submit data on a more regular basis. And we want to make the website mobile friendly since our users frequently access it on their phones rather than on desktop. And we also want to migrate to the React web framework because it's easier to learn and it also better supports interactivity and mobile websites. And as part of our redesign, we're kind of reconstructing the data dashboards for each plant to make the visualizations of data more readable. And the current site displays turbidity and chemical dosage data, which are on the same graph in the image to the right. But we also want to include some other types of data, such as color and flow rate. And finally, if it's possible, we want to host the post data. I mean, we want to host the post database update script on Firebase for free. And this would avoid unnecessary reads from the database by modifying the script so that it's only triggered by a write to the database from the ODK aggregate. And here is the recap of the next steps we wanted to take from our last symposium. Um, and further along in this presentation, we'll talk about how we have taken steps to reach those goals. So first, during the last symposium, we wanted to meet with ACR to go over the website design and ask for feedback, which we have done and will talk about later in the presentation. And we would also like to get in contact with potential users to better understand their needs. And as part of our website implementation process, we want to make sure we know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript fundamentals, and then go on to learn React. And finally, we want to find an alternative to hosting the database update script on Amazon Web Services.
So Will had a meeting with ACR. So he had a meeting with Monroe and Giancarlo to go over our website design. And some of the feedback points they gave us was to find a good graph package for when we graph the water data. So an example of that would be either digraph or chartist.js. These are really good packages because they're open source and they're free. They also work really well on mobile, which is what we're looking for. Another feedback item would be to create a search feature on our homepage so that users don't have to scroll to find anything they want. They can just type in search. And also to have different URLs for each plant on the graph website. Currently, we just have our URL ending as a .com. And then if you want to go to a different plant, you just have to click on the different plant. But a suggestion would be adding the plant website as part of the URL, so you could directly change the URL to go to the plant webpage.
So after receiving this feedback, we started to learn HTML and CSS. Since we all had limited or no experience with these languages, we created and followed a study plan to gain the fundamentals we needed to start working on the static side of the website. We used Codecademy's free courses, the 9-hour course for HTML and 20-hour course for CSS, and we devoted a couple of weeks as a team and individually to get through these courses. After learning HTML and CSS together, we split the team in half. So Shirley and I started working on building the fundamentals of the static side with what we had learned, while Will and Tiffany continued to learn the dynamic side with React and JavaScript, which Tiffany will talk about in a minute. The screenshots above also show some of the code that we have written so far, and this was referencing the baseline Figma design that we had previously worked on earlier in the semester. And this screenshot shows the most recent product of the front end that we have been able to get to. We worked to include a similar design from our symposium, as seen with the nav bar and cards on the home page. Unfortunately, we did end up being very time constricted while designing, times constricted this semester due to designing the prototype, getting feedback, and learning the coding side. And this resulted in us not being able to fully get to where we designed for the Figma prototype, and this will be a work in progress into the spring semester.
So as Larry mentioned, as him and Shirley were working on the static front side, Will and I were working on learning the JavaScript and React. So we did this by doing Codecademy, learning JavaScript and React through that. And afterwards, Ryan was gracious enough to teach us some JavaScript. So he came in to a meeting and he went through a little demo for us. And in that, we were able to see how JavaScript worked. And he also taught us some best practices because there are some outdated syntax and practices related to JavaScript and React. And our next step, which we'll probably go into next semester, is incorporating our JavaScript knowledge into the static web page that we have. So that would include implementing the favorites functionality on our homepage, implementing the data dashboard for each plant, and having the drop-down navigation for our nav bar. And in the data dashboard, that would include toggling between the graphs and the table and the downloading, and also all the little functionalities we want for the graph, such as changing the date and being able to zoom in and out and changing whatever features we want to look at.
So unfortunately, by the time we were ready to implement the React components, the semester was drawing to a close and our team had to divert a lot of our attention towards finals and mental health. This is unfortunate as we were hoping to have an MVP containing the data dashboard ready by the end of the semester, but this will be a top priority for when we return next spring. Our immediate next steps will be to recuperate our mental health over break, something which we didn't have much time for during the semester. Upon our return, our top priority will be to finish building out the React components. We predict that this will be much easier next semester due to the return of one of our team members who has stronger experience with React and JavaScript. Once the minimum viable product is completed, we will prototype the website with ACR and build out the rest of its features until it is in a deployable state and ready to be introduced to the plant operators. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions or recommendations, please feel free to reach out to us at our respective emails. Cool.